Is Hojo-san staying home today too? Furude-san, do you know anything? The teacher's voice wasn't critical, but Rika-chan hung her head, unable to answer, and I felt really bad for her. The teacher called Rika-chan up and they had an exchange in hushed tones at the dais. At first, Rika-chan said that Sadako's fever had grown worse, but everyone in class knew it was a lie. Because every day, Rika-chan brought Sadako's bento with her. Sadako-chan, I wonder what happened. Don't ask me. I'm the one who wants to know most of all. It was already the third day since Sadako's first absence. Ever since then, I haven't felt good. Until just last Sunday, everything had been so much fun. I had reached out to Sadako like a real older brother, and we spent that time quietly but warm and comfortable. So why had it suddenly been flipped over? The more I thought about it, the more I thought that the world had taken a turn for the worse ever since Oishi arrived. Thinking on it now, maybe the strange apprehensions plaguing me the night before Oishi arrived had been a sign. Oishi Kurado, Oyashiro-sama's servant. Shit, that's impossible. Can't decide Sadako will be the curse victim this year just because he showed up. Just what sort of slip-up had I committed to cause those fun times to end so suddenly? Yes, it was the day before Oishi appeared. Shion, Mion, and Rena had spoken of the curse surrounding Satoshi and his disappearance, and it was so sinister that it gave me a bad premonition. Such a small thing was the slip-up that invited Oyashiro-sama's servant? It was absurd. I kept on groaning to myself that I would never accept it, ever. I obviously wasn't the only one suppressing my feelings. Mion and Rena were there too. Everyone in the class was doing it. Rika-chan knew something about Sadaka's situation, but she wouldn't tell us. Rika-chan still held a calm attitude, like a cat basking in the sun, but she was being unbelievably stubborn about this whole thing. She didn't want to tell us, and that wouldn't change no matter how many times we asked her. Everyone understood that, so nobody questioned her. If Rika-chan won't talk, then we'll just have to wait. And she might not be talking because it's not something worth saying. There was no persuasive power in reassurance given with an anxious face like that. Oh, it's business, Mion, look at that. Mion was being taciturn and just looked up at the sky with a somehow annoyed expression. I couldn't tell if she was unhappy that Rika-chan wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was concerned over Sadako's well-being. And what about me? My anxiety was suffocating me day after day. If someone else were looking at me, then maybe I'd look annoyed like Mion did. Tap, tap. Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun. Maibara-san, do you have a minute? Did your ball get stuck again? You guys have to get it yourselves this time. Don't rely on the older kids for everything. I didn't feel like going along with them, so I was a little unsympathetic with my response. We heard a little interesting rumor. Rumor? Yeah, I just thought it might have something to do with that. A rumor. About Sadako. They hadn't said that, but it didn't seem unrelated. They didn't want to talk in the classroom, so they pulled me behind the school building, lending further credence to that thought. The back of the school was damp and humid like always. Students didn't really come here because they wanted to. It might, however, have been the ideal location for trading rumors away from prying eyes. Tomita-kun, Okamura-kun, these rumors, they're about why Sadako is absent, right? We don't know if it has something to do with it, though. Or maybe... What on earth happened to Sadako? Is she sick? Or could she be, like, really sick or injured or something? No, actually, it's the opposite. I heard my grandma saying that she came to buy tofu at our shop yesterday. Oh, Tomida's family runs a tofu shop, added Okamura-kun. She went shopping to buy some tofu? My voice sounds so stupefied, even I can tell. It was understandable. I was worried about what grave illness or injury she had, and the person herself had been out and about shopping for tofu. So, how was she? Did she look okay? Was she wearing a mask like she was getting better? Or was she using crutches, or did she have bandages on her? No, there wasn't really any signs of sickness or injuries on her, but I should have felt relieved that it wasn't an illness or an injury. But my anxiety wasn't going away. Thank you for the hydrate, Spade. Because Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun's expressions weren't looking any better. She apparently came to buy one piece of soft tofu, but my grandma said it was strange. Strange? Why? What's wrong with buying soft tofu? Irritated by how roundabout they were being, I had to desperately fight that irritation from creeping into my voice. Well, Hojo and Furude live by themselves, and they don't have that much money, right? So they only ever buy the cheaper, firmer kind of tofu. They've never bought the soft stuff. It's the most expensive thing there. Soft or hard, they're both tofu, right? Maybe she just wanted to eat some great tofu or something. Keiichi, God, man. Well, maybe, but... I guess what I have to say is that don't be so sure that Keiichi has committed his sin, quote-unquote, quite yet. Everybody in chat seemed pretty unanimous about it, but nobody seemed exactly sure about what it was. I mean, a lot of people had ideas on what it was, but it didn't seem like there was a consensus. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I knew how transparent I sounded right then. This wasn't anything trivial. It was some kind of important clue. Not the cheap, firm tofu, but the expensive, soft kind. Shopping not in the evening after school, but in the middle of the day. I couldn't figure out what those things meant. As I thought hard about it, Okamura-kun took his turn to speak. Me next. This is just a rumor, but apparently he's back. He? Who? Who's back? Hojo's uncle. Sadako's uncle. Right, I think Coach told me about him. Their aunt and uncle had taken them in after Sadako and Sadashi lost their parents in the accident. Hojo's uncle, they say he skipped town last year, scared of Oyashiro-sama's curse. He's really scary and violent, like a gang member. Everything Coach told me came back in bits and pieces. Right. The mean aunt and uncle who had tormented them all the time. I think he said that after their aunt was beaten to death by the deviant, he ran away to his lover's house in Okinomiya in fear of the curse. Why would she be staying home from school and shopping for soft tofu in the middle of the day just because her uncle came back? My underclassmen clammed up and looked downwards. There must have been some big hint buried in there. Even if I didn't understand, if I told Mion or Rena about it, maybe they'd know something. Oh, my bad, you two. You were nice enough to talk about it, and I started hammering you with questions. Oh, no, it's okay. Now we know she hasn't been in bed this whole time, gravely ill. That's worth something, right? I like Games' response. Mayhaps we kill him with a bat? That might be true, but it still won't. It still won't make the clouds over my mind fade away. Ah, Maibara-san, over there. Okamura-kun cried wildly, pointing over my shoulders behind me. Startled, I turned around, and way on the other side of the schoolyard, near the school gate, I saw a figure trudging forth. Ah! Oh, God. Man, fuck that sprite. That's awful. I hate that sprite so much. Oh, I hate that sprite. Yeah, let's see the old one. Oh, that's just as bad. We clown on this man for the artwork, but the old art does have, the expressions are really evocative. The expressions are really, really evocative. God, that actually might be worse. It's Hojo. I burst into a run faster than I could speak, so that as quickly as possible I could see with my own eyes that she was okay. Sadako! Sadako seemed taken aback by me shouting and running over to her. Oh, my, what is it, Keiichi-san? You surprised me with all the yelling and running. Stupid, enough about me already. 3 days? What happened, Sadako? I was so worried. Oh, what a worrywart. It was only 3 days. You're such a worrywart, Keiichi-san. From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Sadako, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason. Hojo, were you alright? Were you sick or something? Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns. Just what happened anyway? 3 days. Do you know how worried I was? Oh, I do so apologize. I was just giving the house a good cleaning. We haven't used it for a rather long time, so everything was covered in dust. Huh? Sadako, what are you talking about? Why would you have to stay home from school to clean the house? Sadako didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance. Gosh, it is nearly about lunchtime, is it not? I am just starving. It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry. Well, whatever. Rika-chan's been bringing your lunch for 3 days now. You look like you can eat it today. Let's just go to the classroom and put everyone's mind at ease. You're right. I suppose I may have caused everyone to worry. It sure is tough being popular. I put a hand on Sadako's shoulder and we ran to the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Sadako looked somehow weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I had thought. But now, I actually started to have quite different fears. Yeah, Lily, you got it. You got it. What the heck happened, Sadako? Everyone in the class, of course, reacted the same way I had. We worried about you. I'm glad to see you well. What were you doing for 3 days? Our classmates showered her in questions. I truly do apologize for causing a fuss. As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika-chan had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Sadako's arrival, because our teacher sprinted into the classroom, her breathing ragged. Hojo-san. Oh, Sensei. I'm sorry for worrying you these 3 days. As you can see, I am fit as a fiddle. My, I was very worried about you. When you are done eating, come right to the teacher's lounge. I have a lot to talk to you about. I must be in for a good scolding for those 3 days I cut class. Sadako laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Sadako healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her. What a relief, right, Rena? Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm glad she's okay. Oh my god, 2 million IQ Ryugu Rena. I looked at Rena and knew. She had a sense that something about Sadako was off too. I looked to see Mion detached from the clamor as well, with a somewhat grim expression on her face. But Rika-chan, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Sadako finished them. Finally, Sadako was satisfied, and after enjoying a thorough conversation with her classmates, remembered that she'd been called to the teacher's lounge. It's such a pain, but I think she'll be angrier if I don't go. I'll go with you. Sadako rises from her seat, and Rika-chan runs over to her. I do apologize, Keiichi-san. I'll be right back after getting scolded. Right. I mean, I could go with you too. We're all comrades in getting scolded in the teacher's lounge. Ever since the curry incident, right? That won't be necessary. Keiichi should mind the place while we're away. Rika-chan's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. The two of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. Curry incident? Oh yeah, the last penalty game was that they had to talk shit about Curry to the teacher, because she likes Curry a lot. After seeing them off, the class breathed a collective sigh of relief, broke apart, and went back to their usual lunch break banter. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Not I, not Mion, and of course not Rena. They stared at the classroom exit Sadako and Rika-chan had left through, their expressions a little distant and grim. We're all friends. Isn't that right? I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Rena turned around with dubious expressions. I won't keep anything from my friends. So I'll tell you what I just heard a little while ago. Let's go, Keiichi. That line is worded so like, hey, have you been paying attention to the plot of the story? I won't keep anything from my friends. I told them the stories I heard from Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun earlier about the tofu shop and how Sadako's uncle had apparently come back. All at once, without letting them speak. And that's all I know. So if either of you knows anything, please say so. I've said everything I can. I ended my sentence firmly and looked into Mion and Rena's eyes in return. Wow, damn. Not just, here's everything I know, and if there's anything you know about the situation, please tell me. Those are Keiichi's two biggest mistakes in the old arcs. Being addressed in like one sentence. Rena stared right back at me. Her eyes didn't falter. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell she wasn't hiding anything. Then our gazes turned to Mion. It's not like I was trying to keep it a secret or anything. Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares, and began to talk timidly, as if she was guilty of something. It's just, now that you've said something, Kei-chan, I guess I have to talk about it. Mi-chan, you know something? Well, I mean, I knew from the first day that Sadako's uncle had come home. That he just randomly showed up in Hinamizawa last Sunday. Why didn't you tell us that? I'm sorry. My angry shout caused Mion to flinch away, look down, and hang her head uncomfortably. Keiichi-kun, it's nothing to get angry about. You're scaring Mi-chan. Huh? Oh. Sorry I shouted at you. I lowered my head in apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her uncle's relationship with his lover, who had been in Okinomiya, had collapsed. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. And on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Sadako and brought her back to his house. To the house, rather. Why did he bring her with him? Because he's a good-for-nothing parasite. He can't even cook by himself, much less do any cleaning. But that's... He brought Sadako-chan back to have her cook and clean? I remember that she said she'd been cleaning the house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, into the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what the puzzle depicted, when I saw it from afar, I could see the answers clearly. Hey, Proxy, remember when you said you had a visceral reaction to hearing his name? I get it now. Yeah. Sadako was locked up at home and tormented into doing the housework. Those are the rumors. If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled that at Mion, but hastily stopped myself. Mi-chan, is that true? I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's true or not. Mion looked down again and, staring at the floor, grew quiet. Just like last year? Like when they lived with their mean uncle and his wife? But this uncle is completely helpless when it comes to housework, right? If Sadako's that important, then there wouldn't be any reason to torment her, would there? Keiichi-kun, I don't know what grounds you have for saying that. But you shouldn't be so irresponsible. God. Honestly, I find this Rena expression, like, so much more chilling than spooky Rena. Because Rena always says some real shit when she has this expression on her face. Rena clearly and directly got mad at me. You don't know much about this, so don't talk as though you do. Yes, that's clearly what she meant. Fine, then do you know something, Rena? I don't know anything either. I didn't know her uncle had taken her to the house until hearing it just now. But the situation is different from a year ago. The situation is different? What does that mean? Satoshi-kun isn't here. Satoshi really cared about his little sister. He always stuck up for her. He was her shield, so that she would be affected just a little by their mean aunt and uncle's fighting. The mean uncle and Sadako-chan are the only ones living there now. Can't you imagine how stifling that must be, Keiichi-kun? He only even came back because he broke up with the woman he was staying with. Do you think a person who came back for such an unpleasant reason would be able to treat Sadako-chan kindly? She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Sadako not being tormented. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry too. I sounded like I was interrogating you, didn't I? Oh. An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I wanted to play Higurashi on stream for a long time. The biggest thing holding me back from doing it was Tatarigoroshi-hen. This loop. But it is the shortest loop. And we're gonna get through it together. We're gonna get through it together. Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. The teacher came back with Sadako and Rika-chan at her side. All right, we're starting afternoon class. Class president, please. Everybody stand up. Oh, I'm sorry. How rude of me. I couldn't read anything from Sadako's vaguely sheepish expression. But given the clouded look Rika-chan was wearing behind her, it was tough to laugh off the disquieting story I'd heard from Mion. Alright. First time in a while everyone's been here. Let's all have a roaring good time with the whole club. Yeah, perfect. Indeed. In times like these, the best thing to do was obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in a club activity. Just what I was waiting for. Hey, Sadako-chan, let's play. There was that game you liked, wasn't there? What was it again? It doesn't matter which. Tell me? Tell me. Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker, and lined them up on the desks. I think that was the first time Mion's ever let someone decide on a game for her. Yeah, Mion always picks the games. It's not that, like, things are gonna get much, much worse, but they're bad now, you know? Usually, the loop is really, really good for a while, and then it gets bad, and it tends to stay bad until the end. We hit bad kinda early. I guess not super early. It's just, well, I'll say this. Again, Tatarigoroshi-hen is the shortest loop. I could tell she was being especially considerate to Sadako. Thinking that whatever her circumstances, if we could just enjoy our time together as a group, that we might be some comfort, some diversion. Sadako seemed to understand her feelings too, and smiled vaguely, though pleased. Yo, Aether Spiral, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. But her head slowly moved from side to side. I'm very grateful, but your feelings are enough. There are many things I need to do, so... Even Rika-chan hung her head in remorse. Hey, whoa! Seriously? All the club members are here for once, and we're not playing anything? Desertion in the face of the enemy. What was the punishment game for it? What part of the club constitution was that in? Stop it, Mi-chan. We can't force her to play with us. Hey, this old man isn't trying to force her or anything. I just thought it would be more fun if we did something exciting. Really, I'm happy you feel that way. Don't worry. Next time we meet, you'll see. I'll get you all caught in a gigantic trap. Sadako, while insulting us, still said she couldn't participate in the club today and apologized. She quickly put her things into her bag and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Sadako. Rika-chan stared lonesomely as her friend hurried home, unable to be part of club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of our classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas sounded like they were coming from some faraway world. This is boring. The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness as she began putting the games on her desk back into the locker. The way Mion can't be honest about her feelings sometimes is actually pretty charming. Everyone just stared absently at Sadako's seat, now empty. Rika-chan, maybe you could tell us about it now? Rena made as gentle a smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Sadako's uncle had broken up with his lover and come back home to Hinamizawa. And he had taken Sadako back home and forced her to do all the household work. And that all had to be pretty rough on her. Thinking this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part. Is it really bad? Maybe Mion and Rena wanted to ask the same question. Nobody spoke. We just all stared, waiting for Rika-chan's reply. Rika-chan still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was a bad enough sign. Last year, was it? It was like this when both her uncle and his wife were here, right? Yeah. At the time, they were mostly just being caught between their aunt and uncle fighting. One of the ways we helped out was with the club, by reducing her time at home as much as we could, but he's making her do the chores now, so she can't stay at school either. Hey y'all, do you remember when the Games Club was founded? Does anyone remember when the Games Club was founded? Yeah. It was 1 year ago. A little over 1 year ago. Shit. Sadako's not a slave. Who do you think you are? Ignoring your own inability to live properly and basically putting Sadako under house arrest. When you think about it, isn't this really strange? We'd need a lot of circumstantial evidence, but isn't this abuse? Can't we notify the police or something? You're right. If we had evidence she was being abused, I think we could tell the police. And can't we talk to the region's welfare people about this? Rena and I kept saying police, police, as though it were nothing, but Mion's response sounded like she thought we were a little naive. It's easy for you to say that. Have you thought about the risks of actually getting proof? What do you mean, risks? I think it was 2 winters ago. We reported it to the Child Consultation Center. We told them there was abuse happening and to do something right away. Huh? You did? What happened? A person came as soon as we called. She interviewed Sadako and Satoshi about what was going on. And then their uncle and his wife, too. I can understand asking Sadako and Satoshi, but wouldn't it be not so good to talk to the aunt and uncle? They say they'd base their judgment on what they heard from both sides. Great of them, wasn't it? So, what did they decide to do? Wait and see. What do you mean, wait and see? Why do I get the feeling? Yeah, the chat's catching on. The uncle really studied up on this stuff. By law, you can't call it abuse unless someone admits to assault or child neglect. They poked and prodded Sadako and Satoshi a lot, but it never left any real marks on them. They were pretty much eating 3 meals a day and had beds. And there weren't any recordings or something like that to prove they'd said or done anything to cause them psychological trauma. None of the villagers had ever actually seen them being violent either. No matter how mean you are, you wouldn't act so violent in front of other people. Nobody would. Then, what happened? The welfare officer apparently went to visit on the same day each week for a while. The aunt and uncle knew they were being watched, though, and didn't torment them in any way that would stand out. Of course, that wasn't the end of it. You mean they ramped up how malicious they were being? Mion sighed and nodded. Yeah, this was 2 years ago, so Rena wasn't here yet. Yeah, no, Tatarigoroshi is hard. It is hard. Their aunt was really damn stubborn. She's one of the most spiteful people I've ever known. Apparently she was doing some pretty disgusting things. Sadako was like a doll that did nothing but breathe by the end of it. So what? From that conclusion, does that mean they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place? Understand? Without proof of abuse so clear anyone could see it, there's nothing we can do. In fact, it might even make the situation worse. We messed up pretty bad. After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads. In other words, until we have clear evidence of abuse, we shouldn't notify anyone? Well, I mean, basically, yeah. Lily, I've seen that meme too. I considered Sadako's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do the chores. How she was being tormented would be the key, but without concrete evidence, it would be difficult to prove. If she had some kind of external injury, that would work, but as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing like that. And being forced to do the chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be better evidence that she was, without a doubt, being abused. I know. Her uncle had ignored Sadako's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover in town. Yeah, this is the part that is... what the fuck? Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Mion had mentioned? Child neglect? Yeah. It's the perfect case of child neglect. What about that, Mi-chan? If her uncle weren't here now, it could be recognized as child neglect. But he's living with her at the moment, isn't he? They were apart before, but if he said something like he had a change of heart and decided to live with her, then they might just wait and see again. Once we reported it, we would need to be absolutely sure they'd interpret it as abuse. Maybe we needed far more concrete evidence, lest we repeat last year's mistake. It's sad. This means we need to sit quietly and wait for him to be violent towards Sadako-chan and leave a mark, don't we? The only plan I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as that of the officials who had made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to a public agency would be a gamble. If we're going to pick a fight, it would have to be one we couldn't afford to lose. If we were gambling without enough money, without enough evidence, our defeat would be assured. If we took the time to amass enough money that we could be sure of victory, then that would mean pretending we didn't see Sadako's plight for a considerable amount of time. Sorry for bringing this up now, but how is Rika-chan able to live by herself? Sonozaki Mion, use your crime powers. There may be a reason why she can't, and you might be able to put it together yourselves. Rika-chan had lost her parents, if I recalled correctly. From what I'd heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was unfettered, free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Sadako, too. I mean, Rika-chan, you're living without any parents, right? Don't kids with no guardians have to go to orphanages and stuff? Keiichi-kun, that's cruel. I'm not saying it to be mean. I only asked because I thought maybe there would be a hint to saving Sadako. Rika-chan, sorry if I offended you. Rika-chan shook her head, not particularly disturbed. Well, you see, it's because I'm considered the mayor's daughter. Let me explain. The mayor, Old Man Kimiyoshi, is Rika-chan's guardian. He got official permission from the governor of the prefecture. Huh. So you're adopted? No, not adopted. You can be someone's guardian without being in the same family. Oh, I get it. Rika-chan lives by herself, but by law, she's considered to live with the mayor, right? Yeah, basically. That's how Rika-chan avoids being sent to the orphanage. Actually, it would be child and family services, not an orphanage. I do think Mion is kind of acting as Ryukishi's mouthpiece in this scene, but, go off. Meep. I don't understand the hard things, but anyway, she's right. Interesting you should say that, Mion. You can be someone's guardian even if they're in another family? Then shouldn't we have the mayor or someone else become Sadako's guardian, if only on paper? Then she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan. And she could go back to living her old life. Too bad it won't work. I mean, her uncle is supposedly her guardian. Wait a minute. You lost me there. What's a guardian exactly, anyway? In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So, whoever was actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian. Then her uncle isn't her guardian. He left Sadako by herself for so long. But if he insists he's her guardian, then that's it. It's been a few days since Sadako was taken back to her house. Her uncle's been paying for her meals since then, right? He is sort of looking after her, so he'd probably insist. And even though he abandoned her for a year, he'd already looked after her for a whole year before that. But the mayor doesn't have that kind of history. So then, if both the mean uncle and the mayor requested guardianship at the same time, the uncle would make more sense? No, but he'd have a better chance. The term guardian refers to the person actually caring for her, right? The uncle actually has a bed and food for her, but the mayor would just have his name. It wouldn't even be a contest. Then, shouldn't the mayor just start caring for her for real? He'd be her guardian in name and reality if he did. We just need to shelter Sadako. That might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but will stubbornly refuse him. It won't be that easy. Sadako is a growing girl, you know? It's not like giving someone a cat. You're asking him to care for a real person. Then Coach. What about Coach? Coach, I don't know, he's got a lot of money, right? He even said it himself. Even if he's not her real father, Coach could become her guardian. He would be great at taking care of her. Stop that. Stop thinking of Sadako like a pet. All you're doing is talking about pushing her onto someone else. You need to think more seriously about how much responsibility it is to care for another human being. Did you ask him? Did you get an actual promise from him that he'd take Sadako under his care? No, I didn't. But Coach would definitely say yes. Well, fine. Even considering the 0% probability of Coach saying it was okay, then what? It still wouldn't work. He couldn't become a guardian all by himself. That's right. Coach, didn't he say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit! What the hell? Why is being single such a disadvantage in this society? Then all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, couldn't you? Is there anyone that wealthy in Inamizawa? I'm not sure. See? It's not simple. It's hard to adopt someone. And you can't go into it thinking you'll push Sadako onto someone else just for a little while. You're being naive, Kei-chan. Shit. Damn it, what the hell? I'm desperately thinking of how to save Sadako, and all you're saying is no, no. Don't you care about Sadako at all? Are you even worried about our friend one bit? Oh, Keiichi. Oh my god, bro. Oh, bro, Keiichi, no. What do you have to say for yourself? I didn't mean that. But it just won't be that easy, and... Yo, what's up, hero girls? Welcome. It's not that difficult a problem. We just need to have some rich people look after Sadako for a while, that's all. Right. What about your family, Mion? You always brag about how great it is being one of the 3 families or whatever, don't you? From what you've said, you must live in a gigantic house. My house? No, that won't happen. My grandma would never allow it. And what about your relatives in Okinomiya? From what I've heard, they're living in luxury themselves. There's plenty of shops your relatives manage in town, too. Your family are basically millionaires, aren't they? No, that won't work. Going to Okinomiya is even more out of the question. My father, he'd never let it happen, ever. Hey. Normally you act like some high and mighty bigwig and now you're being all spineless? What the hell? Are you just gonna sit by and watch Sadako suffer? No, I don't, but... I mean, I want to help her as much as you. But that's a different story. How is it a different story? How can you be so cold-hearted? Your friend is in trouble. What are you if you don't rescue her? You're our president. Our club president. Save her. Save her from this crisis. If you don't save her right now, you're not her friend. You're not even human. I don't know if you have any humanity left in you. Are you listening to me, Mion? See some people in chat saying, oh, this might... My emotions all exploded out of me. And I didn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I had to force her. If she did, Sadako's problems would be solved. If pushing her would solve the issue, then I'd push her as much as I needed to. Why aren't you saying anything anymore? I'm asking you, asshole. Well, Say something, Sonozaki Mion. Me? Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenched into trembling fists, and she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. Was what I said actually that mean? Yeah, bro! This isn't the time to cry. We're in the gambling room now, and we have to do something to save Sadako. And as I thought that, Rena spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm. Keiichi-kun, if Michan's family won't work, then what if we look for another wealthy family? I know someone in Hinamizawa who lives in a nice, big house. Somebody called this in chat. Yeah, he said if Mion doesn't help Sadako, then she is less than human, and that he thinks she doesn't have any humanity in her at all. Who's that? Oh, come on. You've got a splendid family and you're leaving it out of things? I wish I could do this tone shift justice. The way Mad Rena talks, it's so different than the way she usually talks. I'll do my best. My family? My family is... Your friends, right? Save her, Keiichi-kun. Michan is cold-hearted after all. Since you are so considerate towards friends, you should lead by example. Just the three of you are living in that huge house, right? And you've probably got plenty of spare rooms. You should just give a few of the empty ones to Sadako-chan. And then her worries would be all over. What's this? We're done already? That was pretty quick. Okay, great. Congratulations on solving the problem. Then are we done for today? I'm going home. Hooray! Hooray! Maybe I'll go treasure hunting. I haven't done that in a while. I was so worried about Sadako-chan until now that I didn't feel like going to play at all. I wonder what I'll find today. How? Say something, will you? Why am I the only one talking? Say something, you bastard! Are you listening, my Bara Keiichi? Yeah, that's, Alright, Jack. Enjoy. All the old stuff is on YouTube, and I will be putting this stuff up shortly. Yeah, no, that was mean, but I would argue that Keiichi deserved that. Even the cicadas seem to cower in fear. Rena's never talked like that to anyone before, but I don't think Keiichi has ever deserved it as much as anyone has in this entire story. At least in front of Rena. Rena, her shoulders bobbing up and down. And me, who had forgotten to breathe. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale. And Rika-chan, who was keeping silent as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. Rattle. The sound of the chair as Rena sat back down after having stood up finally allowed everyone present to take a breath. Rena had shown me just how much I'd hurt Mion. Rena's scary. After a few moments, Rika-chan cut into the frozen air. Rena called him a bastard. Rena said, "Why am I the only one talking?" That was some cold shit. Yeah. I'm sorry, Rika-chan. Mi-chan, I'm sorry to you too. I don't have to apologize to you, do I, Keiichi-kun? Fuck. Holy shit. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being so unreasonable. These kids are like 16? Younger, but yeah. Were you saying all that to me before? You said it while glaring at Michan, so I totally thought you were talking to her. God! Ice in her veins. Rena had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was spout terrible things as a wave of violent fury passed over me. I couldn't contend with her. Mion, I'm sorry. I lost my cool. Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me that riled up. I thought of myself as Sadako's ni, so I only had good intentions. But I'd think about it a little harder than everyone else, and yet... It's okay. You were worrying with everything you had, but all I was saying was that nothing would work. So I'm sorry. I did something wrong too. Mion rubbed away the tears at the corners of her eyes with her fists and apologized as well. We bowed our heads to each other and looked down without glancing at the other. Yeah, this can't be the sin because he apologized already. He recognized what he did was wrong and apologized, like, already. That goes against what everything Higurashi has told us about what a quote-unquote sin is. Yeah, and exactly, June, exactly. And who was it that just saved Keiichi from committing that sin? It was Rena. Someone, I don't know who, heaved a sigh. Sadako being tormented had been known about since last year. How had the tragedy back then saved Sadako? How had they brought it to an end? Right. In the end, nobody could do anything. All they could do was bear it patiently and wait for those agonizing days to end. That's right. The one who brought an end to those terrible days was some crazy drug addict nobody knew. On the night of Watanagashi last year, their mean aunt had been beaten to death. But it hadn't been done to save Sadako or Sadashi. Right. It really was just a coincidence. Sadako's friends, who needed to do something for her most of all, could do nothing. The incident may have been a tragic one, but from Sadako's viewpoint, it was nothing less than a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle one could only wait for. Is waiting all we can do? Not for evidence of abuse, not for something that minor. Huh? Wait, for what? A miracle. No one made fun of me for using such a crazy word. We couldn't come up with any solution, so it was the only thing we could do. We're powerless. That one word Mion dropped was the finishing blow. It was hot. My body was sticky with sweat. The worst month, June. Higurashi. When they cry. You know, Chapter 4 is... This is Chapter 3. This whole thing is Chapter 3, Tatarigoroshi-hen. Chapter 4 is a bit of a breather. And after going through chapter 3 again, I am remembering why there is a breather chapter after this one. I walked forward quite a ways, and then turned right where the rice fields ended. I'd never come here before, so I had no idea where to go. I got lost several times, so I may have taken quite the long way around. Yeah, that is what is so rough about Tatarigoroshi-hen, is how realistic it is. Maybe I should have gone back home and gotten my bike first. Yeah, the thing that a lot of people, like that some people criticize about Higurashi is that it's gratuitous. But I think the thing that makes Higurashi so truly horrifying is that the really awful moments in it aren't gratuitous, they're realistic. It would have made everyone else worry if I'd asked them, so I asked where one of our other classmates where Sadako's actual house was. That house was originally her family's, apparently, not their uncle and his wife. Their house had been bigger, so they had taken it for themselves. Or right here. Several houses all in a line. Over there? I was visiting Sadako's house, but didn't particularly intend to meet her there. I didn't mean to spy on the enemy, her mean uncle, either. Maybe I just wanted to be a little closer to her, as her Nini. Pretty words, but I didn't know if they were true. What if Tomide-kun and the others told me it was right? It'd be this house? When I recognized it, my feet grew heavy. What did I come here for? My motive for coming here was absurd. When Mion had said at the end that we were powerless, it made me sort of frustrated. I just wanted to do something, anything other than waste the days away praying for a miracle. That's what made me come here. But that was all. Even if I were to witness her uncle actually tormenting Sadako, what could I do? Would I act like a comic book hero, punch the guy in the face, and take Sadako away with me? And then live together somewhere far away? That was ridiculous. I'm powerless. The cicadas' voices, raised in chorus, sounded like they were scoffing at me. As though they were saying that if I couldn't do anything and wouldn't do anything, then I should go back home. I heard a car approaching, so I got out of its way. But the car stopped right behind me, its horn honking shortly once. Annoyed, hadn't I gotten out of their way? I looked behind me, and a familiar face was looking at me out of the driver's seat window. Coach! Hello, Maibara-san. How unexpected to meet you all the way out here. Do you live nearby? Me being here wasn't normal. Just as I considered somehow giving him the slip, I noticed Sadako sitting in the passenger seat. Sadako? Sadako got out of the car and began unloading a lot of groceries from the trunk. I happened to run into Coach on my way back from shopping. He said he'd bring me home, so I accepted his offer. She wouldn't have been able to carry all those groceries on her bike. As Coach spoke, he pulled Sadako's bike from out of the back seat where they'd put it. The grocery bags were big, and there were 4 of them. They all seemed to be packed full and very heavy. Those bags. 7's Mart? Hey, isn't that a little far to go by bicycle? I looked at the bags and saw they were filled to the brim with sake bottles, snacks you'd eat with sake, and boxes of cigarettes. Their weight was one thing, but their contents were nothing less than luxury items. I made it thanks to Coach. He helped me out. It was a little difficult going up those hills. Sadako gave Coach a smile filled with gratitude. But it was incredibly awkward and even heartrending. Sadako, these groceries aren't for dinner tonight, are they? Of course not. I do not drink sake, and I hate snacks. Of course I don't smoke either. He made Sadako go to a distant store by herself on her bike. So she could buy dumb shit like this? And what was the uncle doing right now, anyway? He must have been working up a good sweat at this very moment if he needed to send Sadako out by herself, right? If not, then how much had Sadako suffered for no reason? I hadn't intended to voice my feelings, but they may have made it onto my face. Eiichi's saying the shit that he says in his head out loud, both for comedic and dramatic effect. Coach might have noticed because he clapped me on the shoulder. Just then, one of the house windows clattered open, and the face of a vulgar man, the very sight of which made me immediately avert my eyes, emerged from within it. There were no self-introductions necessary. My gut told me that this was the uncle in question. The first thing out of his mouth should have been words of gratitude for Sadako. Sadako, you left the heat on for the sake when you left, you half-wit. I'm sorry, but you told me to go right away. You idiot. After all that brewing I did for nothing. Idiot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sadako miserably apologized over and over, bowing again and again. She could be perfectly described as a small animal. I had no idea what was happening. Sadako finished shopping for all this heavy stuff that wasn't even for dinner. She only managed to come back because she ran into Coach and he drove her home. If she hadn't been found by him, she'd surely still be by herself, panting and moaning, pedaling her bicycle up that steep hill. What was with those words? Those horrible, sleazy words that he said to Sadako? In what country's dictionary did it tell him to say such things to a young girl who'd just finished shopping? My anger, of course, wouldn't reach him. The uncle displayed no interest in me, instead shouting at Coach. Oh, if it isn't Dr. Irie. Hello, hello. Why don't you come on inside, too? We're in the last round, so you can get in right away. 100 yen per 1,000 points and anything goes. Got you, Iris. No. I'll pass, thank you. I ran into Sadako-chan and gave her a lift, is all. I got you, Iris, don't worry. I'll be leaving now. Aw, nah, come play around. You got a lot of money, yeah? I didn't even understand what her uncle and Coach were talking about. But I knew one thing for sure. None of what he had just said had been to thank Sadako in any way. Sadako, could you bring us the damn snacks? Start getting those beers chilled, too. Go get us some cold ones from the fridge. Pechan, you're so harsh on her. She looks so sad, you should take better care of her. This is how I gotta treat her. She's been like this since she was with my bro. Spoil her and she ain't gonna listen to a damn thing you say. Shit. Whatever, it's your draw, Techan. Tsubaki-san declared Ricci, too. Sorry. What? You and Ricci again, Tsubaki? It looked like it wasn't just her uncle. Some of his friends were over. Hey. Wait. What were they doing? Flinging rude words left and right? Making Sadako go shopping for your beer? What were they doing? My uncle's friends came from town, and they're playing mahjong. He told me to prepare dinner for them as well. What the hell? Mahjong? He called his friends over for mahjong? They were too busy playing, so they sent Sadako to buy them a crapload of booze from a faraway store, and the first thing he said to her was how she left the gas on? What the hell? What does that guy think he's doing? Who could get lost in some dumb game of mahjong and send Sadako to buy all this stuff? Even though Coach was listening, he pretended he wasn't. There was a line of heavy-looking shopping bags lined up on the ground next to the trunk. Maibara-san, you help too, please. You're a boy. You get to carry this heavy one. Coach, you're gonna let this slide? This is completely... Coach pretended he hadn't heard that violent outburst either. No media has ever made me feel this way before. Welcome to the When They Cry series. I can say that the When They Cry series has made me feel happier and sadder than any other art has ever made me feel. When I thought about it later, his reaction might have been the best thing he could do in that situation. I'll carry 2 of them myself. Come on. Help us carry them, please. The bags were packed to the brim with bottles of sake and bar snacks. They were so heavy. And so filthy, so unfair. And they weren't just heavy in terms of weight. They made me feel mortified. Nothing could have been heavier than that. Keiichi-san, there's no need to push yourself. I'll carry it. Yeah, I do remember all those things. Sadako mistook my biting back the humiliation as grimacing under the weight and offered to help. Stupid. Don't underestimate me. Sadako had never looked down on my physical strength in the slightest. Coach, I'm sorry for you too. It must be heavy. No, not at all, answered Coach, smiling vaguely. Coolly. But I, and I alone, knew. Coach was an adult, though he just knew how to keep his feelings from showing. There was even more anger than I was feeling, burning deep in his eyes. Well... Yo, Joey, thank you for gifting the sub. Thank you very much, Joey. I appreciate the support, man. Wow. It is heavy. Ugh. Shit. It wasn't very far to the doorstep of Sadako's house. The bag squeezed my palms and started leaving red marks. Ugh. Fury welled up in me, and the back of my throat stung. But even if it all came gushing out, it wouldn't solve anything. So, just tightly gritting my teeth was as much as I could do. Really, thank you so much. Both of you. You really helped me here. After we carried them to the back door, Sadako said that was enough. Occasionally, we'd hear the repulsive laughing of her uncle and his friends from within, is what that should be, and my insides would seethe. I knew they weren't ridiculing us, and that was why it made me so mad. They'd made Sadako shop for all this heavy, selfish stuff, then ignored her and laughed among themselves as they pleased. It was deeply aggravating. Of course, Coach had to have felt the same way. But if he accidentally let his feelings slip onto his face, he'd only cause Sadako more worry. He knew all that, and spoke coolly, as if to say he didn't care. Not at all. I'm happy I could be a bit of help for you. If there's anything else I can help with, please tell me. Yes. I really am happy you feel that way. That he feels that way. Those words were sad. Sadako herself was sad, and resigned that we could only help her so much. God, this scene is so long! But she was right. No matter how much Coach or I wanted to help Sadako, this was as much as we could do. I felt absolutely ashamed at not having the power to help her any more than this. burning, boiling emotions were bubbling up within me and rising into my throat. Trembling all over, I almost started to cry from my fury. Me too. If there's anything I can do, I'll help you whenever you need it. Oh, Spade, that's an easy one. Hojo Tepe is way worse. So, hang in there. I wanted to at least give her those trite words, saying I'd help her whenever she wanted. Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy just that you came all the way here when you didn't need to. Sadako seemed to have guessed what I was doing in a place like this. When my house was in the opposite direction from school. Alright, you should get going. They're drunk right now, so there's no telling what they'll get mad at you for. She felt guilty getting us involved after we'd helped her, because she wanted to be the only one to suffer this misfortune. That's how it looked, and it hurt. I handed my supermarket bag over to Sadako. And then, I noticed on the back of Sadako's hand, there was something that looked like a bruise. Hey, Sadako, what the heck is that bruise? I knew as much as anyone else how transparent that sounded. I didn't need to hear it from Sadako to know how this bruise came to be. I just slipped on the stairs and hit it a little. Please, pay it no mind. You're lying. Oh, this unbelievable, horrible, inverted Usoda. Yeah. Yeah. Coach nudged me in the back. And then he put his index finger to his mouth to chide me for being so loud. Really, thank you so much. Until tomorrow, I hope we can see each other at school. That's not what I'm talking about. I asked you how you got that bruise on your hand. The evening glow finally got to a point where I could see the other concealed oval-shaped bruises and traces of swelling on her neck and her legs and other places too. I fell down the stairs. The very moment my violent, rampaging emotions were about to burst their way out of my throat, I found my mouth being tightly clamped down on. Coach was pressing down on my mouth from behind, wrapping around me tightly with his hands. Because of that, I couldn't say anything. I could only groan, which I did. That was all I could do. I needed to expel all the magma sitting deep within me, because otherwise I'd surely explode into a million pieces at that very moment. So I groaned from my mouth, from my whole body, while heat fell in drops from my eyes. I groaned and groaned. I groaned to the point of exhaustion. I wrung absolutely everything out of myself. Even having lost my voice, I was still wringing it all out. I understand how you feel. I really do, Maibara-san. Please just endure it for now. Please, I'm asking you, Maibara-san. Endure it for now? And then what, huh? What would happen to her? To Sadako? Her body and mind were wounded, and she was being made to suffer like this. Can you not even let me howl in vain at it? Is that it, Coach? Are we this powerless? So powerless that we can't even fucking scream from the bottom of our hearts? The voices of the Higurashi made me calm down. I didn't know how long it had been. Sadako abruptly gave a slight bow. Thank you very much, Keiichi-san. Sadako. You looked a lot like my real Nini just now. My real Nini may not be here anymore. But I have another Nini named Keiichi-san. Yeah, you got it. I'm your Nini. And when you're in pain, I'll help you no matter what. Your Nini will rescue you for sure. Hojo Satoshi, you fucking idiot. If not now, then when? Sadako, she's never been in more pain in her life. If her Nini doesn't save her now, then when will he? Why did you run away? Why did you abandon her? Why did you leave Sadako behind? You don't have any right to call yourself Sadako's Nini. I won't run away. Huh? I definitely won't run away. I won't run away and abandon you like Satoshi did. No way. I will not abandon you. Oh my god, Warhand High. The TLDR on this light novel is that there is a lot of wild shit going on in this small town. There is a lot of tragedy. And there's also a time loop happening. The tragedy was about 2 different things in the first 2 loops, and we are on loop 3, and it's about a new thing now. Slip. Tears trickled down from Sadako's eyes. And then she narrowed her eyes into a smile. Goodbye, Nini. Sadako took her right hand and awkwardly waved to me. I'll be alright. My Nini now helped me so much. So I'll be okay. I'll do my best. Until tomorrow. I'll be okay. So, for today, this is goodbye. There was no way that I could say bye, see you tomorrow. And then, from inside the house, came a throaty, disgusting voice. Sadako, could you bring us the snacks already? Okay, Nini. Get going already. I'll be fine now. Hurry. Let's go, my Bara-san. Wait, was Oishi looking for Sadako trying to nail her uncle? He might have been. Staying any longer than this would be a bother to Sadako-chan. Ouch. Nini's house is a little far away. I'm sorry to ask you this, but could you take him home? Yes, I'll do that. Coach grabbed me by my collar, and with strength I couldn't have imagined him having, started dragging me away. And I, unable to oppose him, started getting further away from Sadako. She waved her hand to us, expression still dark, and disappeared through the back door. Coach got into the car first, then turned around on the narrow path and brought the passenger side door around for me. He might have got so mad because he knows what Sadako's going through and was upset someone was stopping him, but it was strange he got so violent at a teenager. Strange. Yeah. That's interesting. So I do want to let people know, if people are not aware, everything... I've been doing actually a pretty good job getting the VODs up on YouTube and putting them in an ordered playlist. If anybody does want to catch up on Higurashi, it is all there. Should I get Iris back? Let's see. Probably, yes. Xeros, if you would. I know how you feel so well it hurts. No, I think I understand it even more than you. Right now, just for now, please endure it. She understood exactly how you feel. So please endure it. If you don't, I know already. I'm sorry. Thank you for before. I meekly got into the passenger seat. The car accelerated quietly, and Sadako's house grew further and further away in the rearview mirror. We made a wide turn, and then I couldn't see her house anymore. Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all, Iris, of course. Luckily, Tepe is not on screen very much. So that is a small miracle for this arc. Is your house that far away? It's in the other direction from the school, isn't it? I didn't bother to reply. I would have been hard-pressed to give him an answer as to why I was at Sadako's house. Coach didn't say anything more either. For a while, the two of us were silent, and the only sounds we heard from the gravel spraying over the road as we drove. I remembered how Rena said things were different than last year. At the time, she had Satoshi with her. Satoshi protected Sadako, so that less of the sparks fell onto her. But now, Satoshi isn't here. Yes, that's the unfortunate truth. Coach seemed to understand what I really meant when I said that. It's a terribly sad, cruel story. But there's a limit to our resolve, our efforts, and our assistance. It sounded like an excuse, but he was right. Even if Coach and I wanted to be people Sadako could depend on, that was all. It ended at the front door. No matter how much I shouted that I would be her Ni-Ni, no matter how much I shouted that I wouldn't abandon her, and no matter how much Sadako called me Ni-Ni, I couldn't do any more than that. Where on earth would Satoshi have gone? Right, Satoshi was another story. Her actual brother, Satoshi. He was in a position to protect her far, far better than we ever could. That was the cold, sad truth of the massive gulf between Satoshi and us. Remember those lines Keiichi had about, he's like, well, I can't be Satoshi, but that's okay. Fucking sucks, man. I wonder what he's been doing lately. Satoshi left home. I didn't know why. Maybe it was because of Oyashiro-sama's curse, or he disappeared or something. In any case, he wasn't beside Sadako now. At the time Sadako needed him to protect her most, he wasn't here. Why isn't he here? Sadako needs him more now than ever. A lot of people talk about Oyashiro-sama's curse, but the only thing I can say is that he ran away. One of my friends said that one day he just never came back. He ran away without even leaving so much as a note for his sister. Satoshi-kun had been doing part-time jobs a lot. At the time, Sadako-chan really wanted this huge stuffed animal. It ended up costing a lot, so he was doing all kinds of part-time jobs in order to afford it. He felt so strongly about it. Everyone was whispering about how he at least wanted to get his sister a nice birthday present, since she was being made to live such a pitiful life with her uncle and his wife. In the end, he didn't use his savings for a birthday present for Sadako. Satoshi-kun disappeared, and the police looked long and hard. They found out that Satoshi-kun had withdrawn all his savings on the day he left. After checking all over, they began to think that he maybe used his savings to go to Tokyo. Tokyo? For what? Again, All I can say was that he ran away. He saved up all that money so he could run away? He was that selfish? But how could he just leave Sadako behind? If he was going to run away, he should have brought Sadako with him. Even now, Coach was still calm. He wasn't trying to pour any oil on the fire of my anger at all. He just waited until my anger naturally subsided. After listening to gravel being crushed under the wheels for a little while, Coach spoke abruptly. Please understand. Sadako-chan, left behind, arrived at the same conclusion. I'm a burden on my brother, and that's why he abandoned me. He didn't take her with him when he left. How terrible Sadako must have felt, being betrayed by the brother she loved so much. But Sadako-chan was a very strong person. Of course she had the support of close friends too, but that was how she regained her smile. Yeah, Barra, that's an interesting line of thinking. I recalled how Sadako had spoken of Satoshi so brightly while I was eating dinner with her and Rika-chan a few days ago. At the time, I didn't think any more of it than how pleasant their sibling love had been. But now that I did think about it, I realized it was like she was peering into the distance from atop a pile of tragic perseverance. We know for a fact that Satoshi was acting like Book 1 Keiichi before he disappeared. She said Satoshi-kun will come back for sure, and that when he did, she wanted him to see how she was no longer a burden. Sadako isn't a burden. She's way better at day-to-day living than me, and she can do pretty much anything. I mean, she might fall behind Rena or Rika-chan in certain aspects, but she's way more of an adult than most people. That's the result of her having worked so hard since she didn't know when Satoshi would come home. Her efforts are so painful. Yeah, the drug addict, quote-unquote, got arrested and died in holding. While she lived with Rika-chan, while Rika-chan taught her how to handle everything flawlessly, all so that she could welcome Satoshi at any time, so that she could show him she wasn't ashamed. So, when is Satoshi going to come back? Drug addict did die by choking on a spork. That did happen. That is what they said. I asked Coach, but he knew he wouldn't be able to answer. In any case, Satoshi ran away. He left Sadako and ran away from Hinamizawa. Someone said that when you leave Hinamizawa and run away, Oyashiro-sama's curse gets you, right? That made sense. Satoshi running away and his disappearance. That would obviously mean people thought it was the curse, right? And they could smile, as though it were his own fault, as though he got what he deserved. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, whoever you are. Satoshi didn't vanish because he ran away. You demoned him away with your curse, didn't you? If that's not what happened, then I couldn't forgive him. When did Satoshi run away? Prini, that's a really, really interesting comment that you just made. Objective, kill God. When did Satoshi run away? The night of the Watanagashi festival last year. When their aunt was killed by that deviant. It was a few days after that. On Sadako-chan's birthday. Oh god, I forgot about the fact that, Watanagashi is Sadako's birthday. I slammed my hands on the dashboard in front of me with all my might. Satoshi, of all the days he could have chosen to run away. Their aunt died just a few days before, didn't she? All your days of suffering were about to end, weren't they? You were just about to start thinking about a new life, weren't you? It's wrong to be happy about someone dying, but for Sadako and her brother, her birthday had come at a critical turning point. Their mean uncle had fled town, and the siblings would be left alone. They should have been able to be happy about that on Sadako's birthday. Okay, so it's a few days after Wada Nagashi is Sadako's birthday. Sadako was probably waiting for her brother to return the whole time. Waiting for her brother to return when he never did. Waiting with bated breath for her brother to return, her hopes and dreams of a new life to come growing ever larger. But no matter how long she waited, he didn't come back. He didn't even contact her. Sadako, trembling in anticipation of a great present. Just when would she have to face the cold, terrible truth? Satoshi, you fucking idiot. I could feel my blood rising to my head in my anger at Satoshi. I was frustrated. I was aggravated. I couldn't forgive him. Sadako still respected and adored her brother, yet he so heartlessly betrayed her. Such a person wouldn't just come back, now when he was most needed. Yes, no one would protect her. Not even her real brother, Satoshi. So when she started to see you as her Nini, I was happy. Huh? Oh, thank you for the hydrate spade. I'm dying. I pray for Sadako-chan's happiness as well, but I have a position in society and a job to do every day. I have little time that I can devote to Sadako-chan. But you're different. You go to school with her, and you're closer to her and Satoshi-kun in age. Bro really said we live in a society. I know you think you can only do so much, but you're in a position where you can give Sadako-chan a hand much better than I can. So, I want you to help her enough for the both of us. That's what I wish for. Irie, this seems like an irresponsible thing to say. But that's... Coach, you could... Of course, with my job skills, there are plenty of things only I can help her with. But in the same way, there are things only you can do for her. What I want to say is, we should both perform in every way we can. Was that a little too complicated? Coach added that, but I shook my head in response. When I heard him say he had job skills, it reminded me he was an adult, in a different position from all of us. Maybe I should ask him about it. Oh, Coach, do you know a lot about laws? No, I know even less than the average person. Why? Like bash Hojo Tepe in the head with a bat. That is something that Keiichi has demonstrated the skill of beating someone in the head with a bat. That is true. When I thought back to when I argued with Mion and the others about Sadako, our children's argument had only left us with the inclusion that we had to wait and see. But what would an adult think? What was it? The child welfare law? As an emergency measure to secure the safety of a juvenile, they can force him or her to separate from the parents. They can do that? So then, we could rescue Sadako from her uncle right away. Sadako-chan might not want that. Unless the person being abused wants shelter anyway, it doesn't go that far. Sadako doesn't want it? Why? Coach didn't answer me. I didn't know why he didn't. It was clear as day that Sadako's uncle was being violent and treated her like a slave. So then why... I clamped down on my frenzied emotions and waited intently for Coach to answer. But he never did. It wasn't like he was pretending he hadn't heard me. If I had to say, it was more like he wanted to explain but couldn't put it into the right words. Sadako-chan probably thinks of this abuse as a trial. A trial? This isn't some weird religion we're talking about. You might know this, but Satoshi-kun always looked out for Sadako-chan. She always relied on him. Almost as though she was utterly dependent on him. I'd known for a while that Satoshi had always protected Sadako from their aunt and uncle. But that was his duty as an older brother, not something to worry about. I think that may have traumatized her. Maybe she figured that depending so heavily on her brother had made him hate her. And for Sadako, the current situation was a retelling of the story of a little over a year ago. But this time, Satoshi wasn't here. So I believe that now, she thinks something like this. She wants to overcome this trial by herself without relying on anyone else. And that if she doesn't grow strong, then Satoshi-kun will never return. Now that she mentioned it, Sadako had never said a word about how hard it had been before. I figured she was being threatened not to talk about it, but I talked with everyone, and we were wondering if we should report it to the Child Consultation Center. I have heard that a social worker was visiting Sadako-chan last year. Yes, in the end they decided to wait and see, and we thought maybe that made her get tormented even more. That was... Apparently Sadako-chan reported it herself. And as a result, the abuse worsened, but it was just kept out of sight. She was under even more torment, and the burden on Satoshi-kun for protecting her rose considerably. Huh? But Sadako... She wouldn't be thinking it's her own fault for reporting it, would she? Coach nodded quietly. Sadako-chan would probably either hate it if you suggested reporting the abuse, or feign courage and say you didn't need to. And even if you reported it in secret, she'd probably insist to the social worker that she wasn't being abused. Sadako always acted tough and doesn't readily admit defeat, so I could imagine that easily. And there are strict limitations on this emergency measure. The Child Consultation Center would need permission from both the court and from the concerned party. If the abuse was known to the public, they could forcibly shelter her even if she denied it. For Sadako-chan, that would probably mean losing. This isn't about winning or losing. It's real life. Sadako, she's... Back on topic. After they placed her under their protection, she would be sent to a childcare institution or the like. And she would basically be living there, so it would mean moving away. And with the change in residence would come a change in schools, too. That... changing schools... It has to be done. If that's what it will take for her to be safe. Sadako-chan understands all those things. All the more reason for her not to want it. Why? Because Sadako-chan's reason for living is to wait at that house for Satoshi-kun to return. She was a husk, an empty shell after being abandoned by her brother. How did she find her reason to live? Try looking at it from Sadako's point of view, rather than your own. I felt like he was trying to confuse me with that hard-to-understand, roundabout way of talking so unique to adults. The point was that I couldn't do anything about Sadako wanting to stay in that house. And that I should watch until she gives in. In the end, no matter what I said, Coach himself was saying to wait and see. Getting Utena vibes? Yeah. I don't understand. What? If I feel that Sadako is really in danger, I will report it without asking anyone's opinion. Oh, this is Irie saying that. She might not be happy with the result, and she might hate me for it. But I believe that will ultimately be what brings Sadako happiness. Oh no, that was Keiichi. Coach turned to me and gazed fixedly onto my eyes. It was written all over his face. He was shocked at what such a young kid had said. Yeah, I thought Irie said that. Why would you go that far? Irie, you dumb piece of shit. Coach, no, rather normal adults, might not have understood. So I taught him the creed and values that I believed in. Keiichi's kind of the GOAT. Keiichi's kind of the MVP. Sadako is my friend. And I am Sadako's Ni. Isn't that enough of a reason? I stared at him with a will strong and unbreakable as steel as his eyes betrayed a tiny bit of unrest. No. Of course that's enough. We were silent for a little while, until finally Coach said only that. Didn't we make a promise? I'm sorry, what? That we weren't going to ever let Sadako cry. We made a vow on that day of the barbecue party. I didn't think about it hard at all, but Coach and I still made a promise. That we wouldn't ever let Sadako cry. Coach gave a dry grin of regret, immediately apologizing for not remembering. One way or another, when he grinned like that, it made me think that his enthusiasm for saving Sadako was a tiny bit smaller than mine. He lightly hit the brakes, making a skidding noise and leaning forward. Could that be your house there? Oh, right. Maibara-san would live at the Maibara residence, wouldn't he? Before I knew it, we were almost to my house. Well, I don't think Higurashi quite goes that route, Zeros. Higurashi, when they cry. Because I do think there is some merit to what Utina is saying, but I think that when it is like a, that would be a pretty irresponsible thing to say about a case in which it's like a 9-year-old girl. Because, Sadaka's agency should indeed be considered, but also, she's like 9. You know? Case 31. I don't know what this tip is. December 1st, 1981. Oh, that's what it is. Prefecture Juvenile Ward Division Report. Do not view, do not duplicate. Case 31. Sadako Hojo. Residence, Hinamizawa Village, Shishibane. Consultation circumstances. Anonymous telephone SOS of child abuse. Abuse situation. Anonymous claims that a female child is suffering physical abuse by adoptive parents, her guardians. Family structure. Marks abusers. Adoptive father, adoptive mother, older brother, child in question. Note, in June 1980, the child's parents died in an accident and she was given to her uncle on the father's side, her father's younger brother. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the anonymous telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. The next day, the welfare officer on duty visited the child's home and heard what they had to say. Both adopted parents agreed to center's coaching. Contacted anti-abuse network in the city. As part of the suggested coaching, a district welfare officer in the area began visiting for coaching at fixed intervals. The scrawled note below is stapled to the report. Related information from a former official, Mr. W. Refer to 1977 document D23 number 44. Ask Chief Inspector F from the city's education consultation offices. He is well informed about it. 1977? That's weird. That's really weird. That's the earliest date we've heard before. Does anyone remember how long the Dam War was? Is that when the Dam War started? Yeah, 79 was the first murder. Was the Dam War 2 years long? Oh man, that might have been when the Dam War started. Alright, sounds good, Spade. Peace. God, Tatarigoroshi-hen! Why's it gotta be like this? Are there any characters with a W in their name? Not that I can think of that we've met off the top of my head. I mean, not even just off the top of my head. I'm really racking my brain. I don't see any... I can't think of any W's. Ah, the bite of 77. Clearly. Yeah, it was 87. This game takes place in 83, so we have to get to 87. I went home and washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally, I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. That didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. Normally, I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize how much Sadako must be suffering. The very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Sadako might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. Then, facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought was, of course, Sadako. We thought that if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. That's when Star Wars came out, 87. We gotta break out of this time loop so that Star Wars can come out. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it would be so easy. Sadako was obstinate, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse and try to endure it. Oh my god. The fact that Star Wars has come out already in the When We Cry universe is making my head explode. We are very close to the Wada Nagashi. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then run away. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought Sadako was in danger, then I would do what I had to do. In the end, that meant I was just going to wait and see, too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd drawn a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it. Over the phone. Given Sadako's personality, she might criticize me if she found out. But I believed it was ultimately the best decision. Wait, my Barakeiichi. Would that really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported it to a public agency like the Child Consultation Center. What if they stuck to their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year they decided to do just that, and the situation improved temporarily. But then the aunt, thinking herself a laughingstock, increased the tormenting in secret. And in the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but that man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt. No, not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Sadako's body. Shit. You're too naive, my Barakeiichi. However heroic it might seem to report what was happening, if it doesn't save her, then it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We would need something more, to guarantee Sadako's safety. I scratched madly at my head, thinking, and tilted it back, wanting at least a little bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed that I hadn't realized it until Rena said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw-thatched roofs in Hinamizawa, it was really big. We did actually have empty rooms. I'd never thought we were affluent, but also never that we were poor. Yeah, that's what affluent people tend to think, Keiichi. I just didn't admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms we could lend to Sadako. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, if we cleaned up a few of the rooms my dad uses for storage, they could work for her as well. Why is the spooky music playing? As for food expenses, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would just have to bring a little bit more for lunch than they usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food anyway, it would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Sadako more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much did it cost for one person to eat? How many tens of thousands of yen per month? They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such, but my parents had taken all of that and put it in a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money. And if I got that far, Mion and Rena would need to share some of the burden. Of course, that didn't seem like it would work. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others? I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I would follow through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't only be food expenses. There were a lot of other things that you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once that was troublesome. She might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Sadako would use for her own clothes. I couldn't think about only food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Maibara Keiichi. Since when was this all about money? Even if you could afford it, you would need your parents' permission first. You'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. What would I say to persuade them? Just calm down a little bit, Maibara Keiichi, and realize right away that you can't. Even if you asked them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you managed to gain their empathy, why should the Maibara family have to shoulder all the burden by itself? That's what would happen. This boy is Speedwagon levels of a good friend. I mean, that's kinda... That does seem to be the, That's the thing in Higurashi. That is the only way that these kids are really good friends, is the thing. That was it. It was very sad and frustrating, but no matter how much I wanted to help, a resolution alone couldn't save anything. Are kids, are they really this powerless? I felt frustrated. I believed my feelings were stronger than anyone else's. I even thought they were stronger than Coach's, and yet... At that point, there were 2 knocks at my door, and my mom poked her head inside. Were you awake? I've been calling you for dinner for a while. Oh, yeah, I'm coming. As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I sat around doing nothing, and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural that I'd shamelessly thought of the responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. But when I realized that natural thing was actually a privilege, I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than that tonight. There was food for 3 on the table right now, for Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to add another place at the table. Think, Maibara Keiichi. If it was hard to make food for 4, then just think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh. I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right. I didn't need to get my parents' permission. She should just live here in secret. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, you climbed out the window and then shimmied down the first floor roof or the gutter. You could go in and out of the house directly from my room. Sadako's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it would be even easier for her. I hadn't actually thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I'd only have to bring Sadako to my house when the public agency said they would wait and see. In other words, if Sadako's uncle continued to be her guardian. If, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Sadako back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So, I needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. If it needs to be a secret, then having my parents' help would mean a lot, but gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Okay. Persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition. I'll search for a way to have her live here in secret. When I was around, she would just have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Sadako the stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around in my room while I was gone. I think. If she holed herself up in my room, it would be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where the 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming up the stairs. Yep, this man is 14 years old. That is correct, Zeros. And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up, I estimated a few seconds, that she would be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what'll she do for lunch? Oh, yeah, there you go, Keiichi. There's the problem. Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in on Sundays, after all. Every night, I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite, then ask for a bigger helping. Then, I could just somehow give part of it to Sadako. As a test, I stood up from my seat, with my plate of fish in my hands. What is blood waffling about? What's wrong, Keiichi? Sit down and eat your food. Well, I'm kinda not in a good mood. Could I eat up in my room? You'll make a mess. Dinner at the dinner table. Sorry. Hey, wait. I only tried to take away 1 plate of fish, and they ganged up on me? In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think about it from Sadako's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. I've got to hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? What is this, a faulty house? Had it already gotten old or something? Or was I just not putting enough work in? Could I just plaster it with wax? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. But this was an easy problem. I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little bit so that it didn't make noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet as though I'd successfully hid. Bro is sounding a little Onikakushi-pilled, I'm not gonna lie. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. Couldn't think of any real reason my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage so she wouldn't be noticed even if they did open it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd have to actually hide, meaning it would be more likely they'd hear a noise. And then, I suddenly had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom? The need to use the toilet, so obvious and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might need to set up a portable toilet, like a chamber pot, I guess. Sadako would hate it, so she could go in my room, but the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming in the room. The bath was okay, though. She could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then that I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face at them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. And the more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Sadako, I would need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle, so I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. I looked at the clock, and to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It had felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it, and I fell flat onto my futon. Shit, I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, that'll mean I'm taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I needed to keep worrying about how to rescue Sadako for a minute, or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? The one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around and entered. The one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around in a spiral, steadily took over my entire mind. For my last moment of consciousness, I thought, there were a lot of blind spots in what I'd considered tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow, I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mion might be able to help somehow, and Rena was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we needed to rescue Sadako once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Sadako. We were really, really teetering on the brink there, but he says he's going to tell everyone about it tomorrow, so... The ceiling blurred into view. It's hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas permeated my room, were somehow grating to my head. Today's not Sunday, is it? I remembered today was a weekday and quickly brought myself to consciousness. And then finally I leaped out of bed. The clock read a little before 10. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There was nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed, then went down the stairs. There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together? So that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up once this morning, but then I fell back asleep without remembering it. And my parents, thinking I'd gone to school, left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door, and just as I expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. It was further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. There was only one portion of breakfast left in the dining room, probably mine. The milk they'd poured in it had gone warm since a while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Sadako, yesterday I had cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in that regard. I wasn't in a position where I could bargain for Sadako by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing just to save a single person. I'd seen this on TV and in comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Is that why I ran my mouth like that, swearing to save her, because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true. Because the fact was I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult, like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Sadako gone to school today? I immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. If I couldn't save her, and no one else could either, then we could only pray for a miracle. Are we so powerless? With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I had only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. Eiichi, don't at me like that. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in a more positive light, maybe I wanted some time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Sadako was safe, but I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Rena's house and the dam site. It would be quite a detour. I calculated how long of a detour it would end up being, then, satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. Rena had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had been turned into an unlawful, oversized garbage dump, and Rena really liked going fishing for junk in there. Without that, she'd come off as a completely normal girl, too. I can think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. Shut up, Keiichi. Rena's perfect. Well, the view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit with a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this big dam site. Maybe it was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think about stuff in a place like this than instead of my cramped bedroom. Well, Keiichi, I took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich, cold air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring, ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle bell. Considering where I was standing, I don't think they were trying to get me out of the way. They'd have rang the bell because they wanted something from me. God. Just someone's portrait showing up for the first time is so good. Hey, excuse me. You're from Hinamizawa, right? Yes, why? I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name, I think, was Tomitake, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures, or so Mion and the others told me, I think. Could you tell me how to get to the Furude Shrine from here? I think I left my map at the inn. I don't know where to go. The shrine? From here? Hmm. I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there was difficult. I was a little irritated at having been bothered for this, but when I realized it meant my detour actually meant something, that feeling faded quickly. I'll tell you, but it's a little difficult to explain. I could bring you there if you don't mind. Really? I would be in your debt. Thanks a lot. But are you sure? Did you have something to do? Tomitake-san finally appeared to have realized how strange it was for a student like me to be here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it, then turned my back and started walking toward the Furude shrine. Tomitake-san hurried to turn his bike around and came after me. Sorry. Don't worry. All guys have times when they need to split up from the pack and be lone wolves for a while. What a free-minded freelancer. It was easier for me, too, that he was under that impression. I'm Tomitake, a freelance photographer. I specialize in wild birds and landscapes. I'm still pretty unknown, though. It seemed absurd for him to introduce himself when I was just showing him to the shrine, but he gave me his name, so I needed to give mine back. I'm Maibara. Pleased to meet you, I guess. Maibara-kun. Pleased to meet you. You seemed like a pretty silly man, but that felt kinda good considering I'd been suffocating with worry over Sadako all night. Along the way, Tomitake-san spoke at length to me about how precious the nature in Hinamizawa was, and how it was a treasure trove of rare wild birds, despite my not having asked. I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I left him to it. Keiichi, don't be mean to Tomitake. I know you've had a bad couple days, but a little fun with a man-slut was just what I needed today. These straps will take you up the shrine grounds. Thank you. You really helped me out. I think I'm a little late. Exactly, Zeros. That's me listening to Tomitake talk about wild birds and shit. As Tomitake-san mumbled to himself, he left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have a watch, but as far as my internal clock could guess, it was still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I could kill a little more time until then. With that in mind, I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomitake-san. When we reached the top of the long staircase, I arrived at the wide-open shrine grounds that were too grand-looking for this tiny village. Tomitake-san. Oh, there he is. It looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here, and he got lost and ended up being late. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person he was meeting. That lady, I knew her. Oh, is that you, Maibara-kun? Hello there. Are you off from school today? What? Oh, Maibara-kun, you followed me? I wasn't really planning to. I just wanted to kill some time. Oh my. Arriving at work late like an executive. How refined. You certainly are famous, taking the time to look like a big shot. Was I a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous. Oh, you still can't remember my name? This is Takano Mio-san. She works at the village clinic. Maibara-kun, you seem healthy, so you probably haven't been to the hospital much, have you? Now that we're finally acquaintances, the next time you're sick or anything, I suppose I'll give you a little bit of special treatment. This lady named Takano-san, I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we'd passed each other on the streets a few times, but I was pretty sure this was the first time we talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san, and had a bag, and saw she had a bag and a camera. Are you photography partners? Was that why you were meeting each other? Oh, we're nothing like partners. I am but an amateur, and Jiro-san is gently initiating me into it. Right? That's not it at all. Takano-san's a quick learner. He could take pictures just fine without my guidance. I mean it. Why is she so like this about Tomitake? She's like, oh, me and Tomitake, we're just, you know, I couldn't tell which of them was ahead in the conversation. Well, they were certainly one couple you wouldn't get tired of watching. I don't know who's saying this. The festival is finally coming up the day after tomorrow. I hope I can take some good pictures this year. I plan on taking some shots of the setup tomorrow. I want to capture the festival energy shown by the preparations for it, too. Okay, so tomorrow is the setup. Is the festival tomorrow, or... Oh, I just remembered. There was some village festival called Wadanagashi or something the day after tomorrow, on Sunday. They hold a service with a pile of old futons in order to give thanks to Hinamizawa's guardian deity, Oyashiro-sama, I think? Oh, you're correct. You have quite extensive knowledge despite just having moved here. Yes, it is a festival, to give thanks to Oyashiro-sama. Ooh. Thank you for the posture check and the hydrate, Iris. Takano-san smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of the festival to thank Oyashiro-sama needed to be laughed at. Cryptic as ever, Takano-san. But I do wonder what will happen this year. You know what they say. If it happens twice, it'll happen a third time. And it's already happened 4 times. I think there's less evidence that it won't happen a 5th time, don't you think? I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. On the day of Wadanagashi, a freak death always occurred, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse, and a disappearance occurs that people call being demoned away. She had been dead for 48 hours. So she should be dead now, I think. These strange events had happened 4 years running, or at least tonight. And Wadanagashi, rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow, marked the 5th. Oyashiro-sama puts a curse on enemies of the village, eh? If it does happen this year, I wonder who will find themselves at gunpoint. Ugh, and I always come here to pray and donate money whenever I visit. It won't be me for sure. Oh, is that so? They say that Oyashiro-sama has been especially harsh on outsiders recently, you know? Maibara-kun may have only just moved in, but he's a proper resident of Hinamizawa. But you, Jiro-san, are a stranger who only comes once a year. I wonder, will he let you go this year? Hey, Spirits, what's up? Good to see you. That's harsh. Tomitake-san was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, including me. Oyashiro-sama, the one who used a curse to kill people involved with the dam construction project. One after the next. He killed the dam construction manager. He killed Sadako's parents for supporting it, and the next year he even killed her aunt. If the demoning away was part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that in the serial freak death incidents, the overwhelming majority had the last name Hojo. Half of the deaths and disappearances had come from the Hojo family. The Hojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. Did that mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them particularly harshly? Because despite that, they had been in favor of the dam? Have you heard the news that Sadako's uncle has returned? Takano-san, who had been enjoying a few words with Tometake-san, was caught unawares by my sudden inquiry. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that? Sadako's parents were killed by the curse, and her aunt, too. So I was wondering if maybe if you went in order, her uncle would be next. Her aunt had a miserable death from the curse last year, and her uncle let his fear take over and fled the town, right? Oyashiro-sama doesn't allow people to try and abandon the village, does he? I hadn't intended to be quite this persistent, but those words, they just flowed out of my mouth without me thinking about it. Right. Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't believe in something so unrealistic, of course. But the fact was that every year, unfortunate accidents and incidents happened to enemies of the village. Like Takano-san said just now, it had happened 4 times. No one could say there wouldn't be a 5th. That's an interesting suggestion. Damn, welcome back, Spade. Good to have you back. She is straight up talking like me reading chat. Look at that. That's an interesting suggestion. It is true that if you look at those sacrificed in previous years, those named Hojo come up quite frequently. Given how long it's gone on for, her uncle being the one to die or disappear this year isn't out of the question. Not again, Takano-san. Don't laugh about it. It could really happen. I'm sorry. But Oyashiro-sama's curse is my life's work. Takano-san gave off a mysterious, somehow intellectual impression, and her life's work was mysterious in its own right. She probably really liked inexplicable supernatural phenomena or something. Takano-san, you seem like you know a lot about Oyashiro-sama. Give me your honest thoughts. Given that he's a Hojo and that he's returned, what are the chances that the uncle will fall to the curse? What? You seem like you really want this uncle of hers dead. That's not... I wonder. It all depends on the whims of God. Maibara-kun, do you know the true identity of Santa Claus? Huh? I got a strange question all of a sudden, and I couldn't immediately answer. What? You don't know? It's your daddy. The daddies in everyone's family. What? That's what you meant? Well, of course. Everything ultimately comes down to humans in the end. After all, humans are the only ones living in the world. All strange things should be explainable in terms of human actions. I felt like I put that somewhat strangely, but Takano-san was not as dissatisfied with that reply as I might have guessed. Oh, it's impressive that you've caught on to that at such a young age. You're right. Strange things that happen in the world of man are all caused by man for his own benefit. Maibara-kun, I'll ask you again then. This time, not Santa Claus, but Oyashiro-sama. Do you know anything about who Oyashiro-sama is? Takano-san took a step towards me and gazed into my eyes as she asked. Santa Claus was really the parents of every family's children. If lionizing that legend was a corporate tactic to try to profit during Christmas sales, then what was Oyashiro-sama, really? Hmm. Oh, didn't you already say? There are only humans in this world. Everything can be explained by human actions, right? Maibara-kun, keep this to yourself, okay? This string of freak death incidents attributed to Oyashiro-sama's curse. Takano-san's view is that they may be premeditated homicides, performed by the people of Hinamizawa and based on some kind of ceremony. No, don't misunderstand me. My life's work is to research teachings, thoughts, and cultures from the viewpoint of folklorism. I don't really care at all about who the culprit is. Just keep that in mind, please. I could tell, at least, that she was saying some crazy stuff. If I were to liken her statements to a meal, it would be sort of like she'd just try to stuff a whole plate of duck into my mouth and now I couldn't say anything. To understand that in the first place, you'd have to go all the way back to ancient times, when Hinamizawa was called Onigafuchi, or the Demon's Abyss. The Transcendents who lived there believed themselves to carry the blood of demons, and so were only half human. Takano-san, having entered her home field, leaned forward and began to speak of ridiculous matters. Tomitake-san realized she was overawing me and interrupt for me. Interesting thought, counterpoint supernatural time loop. Gosh, well who's to say if the time loop is diegetic or not? Are these just different scenarios that could take place in Hinamizawa, or are they an actual time loop taking place? Who's to say? Takano-san, you can't just chatter on about that stuff in Maibara-kun. Look, he's really confused. One of the best things about the manga is the look on Takano's face when she starts talking about Hinamizawa history. She like yanderes out and just like she's so big in the panel. She's like, oh yeah, they used to murder the shit out of everybody. It was so hot. Oh my, are you? If you want to hear more, ask me anytime. I have heaps of the grotesque stories that boys your age seem to love hearing. I mean, there are certainly some counterpoints in the chat about why they may be a diegetic time loop. Thank you. If I feel like it, I will. For now, I softly and safely gave my refusal. Takano-san seemed a little unhappy that Tomitake-san had rained on her parade, but she stopped talking about it then. Even so, it was still a very interesting story. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were really homicides, perpetrated by people of the village. Well, I mean, if you thought about it logically, it would have to be. People wouldn't be dying because of a curse. Someone's obviously killing people and making it look like one. Curse killing, if you will. Indeed. As if for who that is. It might be safer not to try and find out. You seem like you know, Takano-san. You may not have proof, but you seem like you believe it. Oh my, why do you think that? I just kind of felt it vaguely. It didn't seem like her extreme passion for this research could be explained by just these things being taboo or being safe and easy. This person loved walking through the profound, forbidden abyss of risks and taboos. Let's leave it at that, Maibara-kun. I just helped you escape, and now you're trying to talk about Oyashiro-sama again. I wanted to take a nice walk while it was still cool. Tomitake-san seemed a little disappointed not to be able to go on the date he'd planned since I had brought up a weird topic. But right now, it was something I wanted to ask, just for a little bit. And that was about whether Sadako's uncle will be chosen for the curse this year. If he was, then Another miracle would happen, just like last year. A terrible incident would happen again, but it would release Sadako from her unfortunate circumstances once more. Well, I do have a few suspicions as to the kind of people who would probably become involved, of course. It's a natural, inevitable conclusion for anyone who's researched the history of Onigafuchi Village. Who do you mean? What would I do if I knew? I asked that question to the other me deep inside, but got no reply. How enthusiastic. What would you do if you knew? Nothing, really. If you found out, you might get into danger yourself, you know? Maybe the 5th year's curse would be you. Takano-san, toying with taboo, gave a devilish satisfied smile, as though nothing in the world would be more amusing. She was probably trying to tease me, but I didn't feel like going along with her little game one bit. You like to talk pretty big, but you don't really know yourself, do you, Takano-san? Holy shit, Keiichi! I had felt a tinge of irritation at Takano-san's roundabout way of speaking. But you don't really know yourself. What a fucking thing to say to this blonde woman of all people. But those emotions escaped my mouth, like water flowing through a strainer. Even I was surprised at how directly I had spoken out about what I felt. Of course, I wasn't the only one taken aback. Oh my, you're something. You may be just a boy, but you can still provoke people. How unexpectedly rugged. I don't dislike people like that, you know. Takano-san's tongue poked out of her mouth, and I was convinced it was the long, thin, and split in the middle like a snake's. Alright, I'll tell you then. But you have to promise me 3 things first. 1, not to regret it, no matter what I tell you. 2, not to tell it to anyone. 3, not to tell anyone I told you. I gulped firmly, and nodded. Momitake-san made an exaggerated expression of distress, gave a dry, vague smile, and lit a cigarette. Please tell me, who is putting this curse on people? Who is it? Who's deciding who gets cursed? And after I said that, I finally realized why I wanted to know. Higurashi, when they cry.